Hidden Leaf Village symbol. It was meant to stand for peace, but what if it was never meant to represent peace at all? On the surface, it's just a leaf. The leaf represents life, growth, and continuation. One leaf falls, another grows back, just like a shinobi's generation. And the spiral inside it represents chaos, the endless cycles of war. It's also tied to the Uzumaki clan, a family born into suffering. Together, the symbol means life protected inside chaos. But that was never the real intention. Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, created the Hidden Leaf Village after the Warring States period. His goal was simple. Children should not die on the battlefield, and so he created academies, ranks, rules, and organized missions. He didn't end the war, but he systematized it. The symbol wasn't made to stop conflict. It was made to make conflict feel necessary. And this is where the lie begins. The leaf symbol teaches children that sacrifice is honorable and debts are necessary. When a ninja wears it, they stop being an individual and they become a weapon owned by the village. That's why missing nin slash their headbands. They're not leaving a place, they're rejecting ownership. Madara Uchiha wanted peace without illusion, and Hashirama wanted peace built on sacrifice. Whose peace was real, should we believe? The Akatsuki red cloud symbol. Alright, at first, Yahiko created the Akatsuki during the wars in Amegakure, a village destroyed again and again because stronger nations needed a battlefield. The cloud represented the sky over those battlefields. Always present, always watching, but never interfering. The color red represented blood. Blood spilled during endless shinobi wars, especially in lands that were never protected. At that time, the symbol meant blood that never dried, because the Akatsuki was formed from the victims of war. But later, the symbol was inherited and twisted by Nagato. After Yahiko's death, the symbol completely turned into something else. Nagato believed that only shared suffering could create peace, and so the symbol became an accusation against the village symbols that promised protection, yet failed to deliver it. That was why the Akatsuki cloud did the opposite. It brought chaos, not peace. It accused the world of peace built on graves, and stability achieved through meaningless deaths. That's why they did not wear village symbols, because those symbols had failed them. The hidden leaf promised peace, and the Akatsuki cloud remembered the cost. So, is peace still peace? If it was built on someone else's graves? The world government symbol. The world government symbol represents unity, order, and peace across the seas. But that's actually wrong. It's just 4 connected circles. 4 circles represent the 4 seas of the world, all connected and under one authority. But there's something missing. There was no center. No single point of responsibility. Together, the symbol means total global control, a world where order matters more than truth. And this symbol wasn't made for peace. It was made for something else entirely. The world government was formed by the 20 kings. It was created after the Void Century, after the ancient kingdom was defeated and history itself was erased. This symbol was meant to mark a new beginning. The symbol appears on flags, marine uniforms, government buildings, and official documents. Its purpose is simple. We rule the world, law, without questions, and history destroyed. The symbol actually means order already exists. Don't ask how. The world government doesn't fear chaos. It fears the truth. The symbol exists to hide the Void Century. That's why scholars disappear. Revolutionaries are hunted and dreamers are erased. The world government symbol promises peace, but it only protects one thing, its own power. Next is the Demon Slayer Corps uniform mark. Now, here's what makes the Demon Slayer Corps uniform mark different from every other symbol that we've talked about. The Demon Slayer Corps was never a government, a nation, or a protected army. It was created by people who had already lost everything. There were no flags and no promise of safety, only a purpose. Most people saw the Demon Slayer Corps uniform mark and assumed it represented heroism, courage, justice, and the fight between good and evil, but that was never its true meaning. This symbol did not promise survival, it accepted death. On the surface, it was just a single kanji Metsu. It meant destroy, annihilate, erase completely. The mark did not say protect humans, it said end demons, no matter the cost. The Demon Slayer uniform was not armor, it was a death notice. Wearing Metsu meant I accept, I may not return. There was no glory waiting at the end, no reward or peace. Only duty. Unlike village symbols or world emblems, this mark did not lie. It did not promise peace. It did not promise protection. It told the truth from the beginning. You would probably die, and the world might never know your name. So the question remained, was this the most honest symbol in anime? The Fairy Tail Guild mark. The Fairy Tail Guild mark never looked intimidating. It wasn't a weapon. a national crest or a symbol of power. It looked almost welcoming. At first glance, the mark represented family, friendship, and belonging. And it was placed directly on the skin, not worn like a uniform or armor. Because Fairy Tail was never meant to be just a guild you worked for. It was meant to be a hope. The guild was created for people who had already lost everything. The outcasts, the broken mages, and those with nowhere else to go. The mark told them their past no longer mattered, and once you carried it, you were accepted. But the mark carried more meaning than most people realized. The Fairy Tail guild mark wasn't just a tattoo. It was created using magic, which meant it could weaken, fade, or even disappear if a member's bond with the guild was broken. The symbol didn't simply show membership. It reflected belonging, not loyalty enforced by rules, but connection held together by trust. When someone bore the Fairy Tail mark, they no longer stood alone. Their battles became shared, and their enemies became the guild's enemies, a chosen family and the responsibility that came with it. The Alchemy Transmutation Circle in Full Metal Alchemist represented something far more dangerous than it seems. The circle existed to make alchemy possible, to control energy, prevent chaos, and enforce equivalent exchange. Its purpose was simple: precision, limitation, and structure, to prevent instability or outright forbidden alchemy. The circle didn't give freedom, but it gave rules. But this wasn't created by a single person. The Transmutation Circle was developed over centuries, built from ancient alchemical knowledge, and refined by countless alchemists. It existed long before the main story and became the standard method of transmutation. No king or government controlled it. The circle belonged to human knowledge itself. On the surface, the Transmutation Circle was about order. The circle symbolized completion and balance, a representation of natural order. Inside it were formulas, alchemical geometry, and philosophical markings. But beneath that logic was something darker. Humans created the circle because they wanted more, to understand and reshape reality. And the circle made power feel logical. It turned morality into mathematics, and it convinced humans that consequences could be calculated. And yet the story kept proving one thing: some things could never be repaid. Human transmutation exposed the lie, and the circle could not measure human life or could not calculate a soul. When humans attempted forbidden transmutation, the circle didn't work. And at the end, it taught one law above all else: everything had a cost. Power required payment, and knowledge did not come without loss. And this was the law of equivalent exchange, the actual meaning of the circle. The Alchemy Transmutation Circle was never about power, it was about limits. It showed humans they were allowed to act, but punished them the moment they tried to go further. In Full Metal Alchemist, the Transmutation Circle was humanity's attempt to play God, and the circle was the price of that mistake. It represented humanity's attempt to control natural law. The Hunter Association symbol. What if a symbol was your ticket to anywhere? This symbol belonged to the Hunter Association, an organization that existed above nations, laws, and borders. It was created by elite individuals who believed the world was meant to be explored, not protected. Passing the Hunter exam never made someone a hero, but it gave them access to money, freedom of movement, and authority without permission. The association never promised safety, but it promised freedom. On the surface, the symbol looked simple, clean, neutral, and almost empty. But it didn't define morality, and it didn't declare justice. The symbol told the world only one thing: this person was allowed. But that permission came with something unexpected. The symbol never told hunters what to do. Hunters could become explorers, scholars, mercenaries, or criminals, and the association rarely interfered. Their philosophy was simple: power reveals true character, and the symbol wasn't guidance. It was permission without limits, and that was where the danger began. The Hunter Association didn't create heroes. It created competitions, and then it watched. Civilians were not protected by this symbol, and order was never guaranteed, and abuse of power was expected. The strong moved freely, while the weak adapted or disappeared. Unlike the other symbols, the Hunter Association did something different. It removed all laws. The Nerve logo. This is a logo that hides all the truth of the anime. The Nerve logo was supposed to represent protection, humanity's last line of defense, an organization standing between the world and extinction. But at the end, it kind of meant something else. The symbol looked simple, a leaf, and the word nerve written in red. Clean, official, very reassuring. It looked like an emblem of authority, something designed to make people feel safe. But in Neon Genesis Evangelion, symbols were never that simple. The leaf and nerve logo was a fig leaf, a direct reference to Adam and Eve. After gaining forbidden knowledge, they didn't become gods. They became aware, and with awareness came shame. They covered themselves. The fig leaf was never a symbol of innocence. It was a symbol of guilt after understanding. Nerve was humanity doing the same thing, covering its sins after touching powers it never truly understood. Nerve was created after the second impact. Officially, it existed to protect humanity from the angels, but unofficially, it existed to control godlike beings and guide human evolution. It operated under the United Nations, but answered to something far deeper. Nerve wasn't a shield, it was a mask. Even the red text carried meaning. The word nerve wasn't red for style. Red meant blood and sacrifice. It meant the cost hidden behind authority. Pilots, lives, and entire cities. All justified under a single excuse. Humanity must survive. The darkest truth was that the Nerve logo existed to make chaos look organized, to turn the apocalypse into administration, to make god-level power feel manageable. The fig leaf didn't stop the end of the world. It only hid the fact that humanity caused it. And when that leaf finally fell, instrumentality began. The hidden leaf sold sacrifice, and the world government erased the truth. But Nerve did something else. Nerve covered guilt. The Nerve logo never represented salvation. It represented shame. The Phantom Troop Spider. The Phantom Troop Spider looked like a symbol of evil, crime, murder, and chaos. But that was never what it truly represented. Each member of the Phantom Troop bore a spider tattoo with a number, and numbers could be replaced. That was the first truth of the spider. The individual didn't matter. The web did. So why would anyone willingly erase themselves like that? It's because the spider was born in a place the world had already erased. The Phantom Troop was created in Meteor City, a land of people without names, without records, without value. A place where society threw away everything it didn't want to acknowledge. These people grew up knowing the world had never believed in them, so they stopped believing in the world. The spider became their answer, not a symbol of friendship, but a symbol of belonging. If the world treated you as disposable, the spider gave you meaning through loyalty. You mattered, not as an individual, but as part of something that would never abandon you. But here was the contradiction no one talked about. If members were truly replaceable, why did they mourn their death? The Phantom Troop killed without hesitation. Yet, when one of them died, they grieved. They destroyed cities for each other. They avenged their fallen without question. They claimed the group mattered more than the individual, but their actions betrayed them. And that was the real meaning of the spider. It was both a machine and a family. Cold enough to replace you, but human enough to miss you. The Phantom Trope Spider was never about chaos. It was about what happened when people rejected by the world created a place where they finally belonged. The brand of sacrifice. The brand of sacrifice wasn't just a curse. It was a warning. In Berserk, the brand marked a human as an offering. A sacrifice chosen by forces beyond morality, law, or mercy. Once it was carved into the flesh, your life no longer belonged to you. The brand bled in the presence of evil. Not once or temporarily, but endlessly. Pain became routine, suffering faded into background noise. So, if the brand of sacrifice didn't kill you immediately, then what did it actually do? Well, it condemned you to be hunted. Apostles, spirits, demons, they were drawn to the brand like predators to blood. Sleep was never safe, and rest was never peaceful, and that was what made it crueler than death. But the brand did not erase your will at all. You were still alive, still thinking, still resisting, and you felt everything. The God hand created the brand to legitimize betrayal, to turn sacrifice into law, and to ensure that power was always paid for with someone else's suffering. But the brand created something they never intended, because surviving with the brand was an act of rebellion, and every breath was resistance against fate itself. Guts didn't fight because he believed he would win. He fought because he refused to disappear. That was the truth of the brand of sacrifice. It didn't mean death or endurance. It marked you as condemned and dared you to keep living anyway. So if suffering was unavoidable, would you kneel to fate or would you keep fighting? Next is the Straw Hat logo. This logo was used for something you would never expect. The pirate era truly began with Goldie Roger. Not with a flag or a law, but with words that shook the world. When Roger was executed, he didn't leave behind an empire. He left behind something entirely different, an idea of freedom, passed down through generations. The Straw Hat became a symbol not of power, but of freedom. In the One Piece world, symbols matter more than laws. A pirate flag isn't a decoration, it's a declaration. And the logo is used to say one thing clearly: I will not live under your rules. It's not about safety, It's about choosing your own path, even if it leads to death. At first glance, it looks simple. Just a skull wearing a straw hat, a classic pirate image or warning of danger. But One Piece twists that meaning. The skull represents defiance against authority, and the straw hat represents dreams and inherited will. Together it means a dream that laughs in the face of fear. Then why build an entire story around a smiling skull? Because One Piece believes something radical. Freedom is worth more than peace enforced by power. To sail because you want to dream because you can, and to live loudly in a world that demands obedience. But here's the part most people don't know. Freedom isn't kind, and that skull isn't a joke. People will die chasing dreams, authority will label freedom as a crime, and the sea will not care who you are. The smile doesn't deny suffering. It chooses freedom anyway. And this is why the One Piece symbol still appears in real-world protests and riots. Not as threats, but as statements. We don't accept your system. Just like in One Piece, the symbol isn't about destruction. It's about refusing to bow. These are all the famous symbols and logos in anime. Which was your favorite symbol, and which was the most interesting one? Drop your thoughts below, and YouTube's already lined up another video for you to enjoy. It's on the screen right now.